When pilots from an Air Force unit complete their conversion training for a new aircraft, especially a two-seat variant of what is widely regarded as the world's first 5G fighter, does this imply that the ultimate goal of this elite unit is not merely to master a new fighter, but to prepare for the ultimate form of future aerial combat, or even to pave the way for the direct introduction of 6th-generation fighters? The starting point for this question stems from a seemingly routine report recently published by official media. In an article on talent development, the People's Liberation Army Daily mentioned that a pilot from the vanguard of military strength Flight Squadron had completed conversion training certification at the end of last year. The article also emphasized that this new combat platform possesses an extremely high level of intelligence and information technology. While the report was brief, its implication was crystal clear. A top-tier unit already equipped with 5th-generation fighters is preparing its pilots to operate an even more advanced aerial platform. To grasp the significance of this development, one must look back at the history and status of this unit. The honorary title of Vanguard Flight Squadron for Military Strength was conferred by the Central Military Commission in 2019 upon the 1st Squadron of a certain aviation brigade under the Northern Theater Command Air Force. This unit traces its origins to one of the earliest aviation units established by the People's Liberation Army Air Force, which was among the first to see combat and achieved remarkable feats during the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea. Its historical legacy and combat traditions rank among the highest in the Air Force. In 2021, CCTV's Noon Defense and Military program confirmed that the squadron had begun to be equipped with J-20 fighter jets. This signifies that the vanguard of military strength Flight Squadron is the Air Force's second operational unit to receive 5th-generation fighter jets, following the Wanghai Squadron. Looking at the J-20's deployment timeline, its rollout has followed a clear logic. In 2017, the J-20 was officially commissioned and first delivered to the Air Force's Test Flight Squadron to undertake trial installation and training missions. During this process, foundational documents such as pilot training manuals and aircraft maintenance manuals were finalized. In February 2018, the Air Force's official account announced that the J-20 had begun to be deployed to operational units. In 2019, the first operational unit to receive the J-20, the Wanghai Squadron, was publicly revealed. In 2021, the Strong Army Pioneer Flight Squadron emerged as the second unit to receive the J-20. This sequence indicates that the Test Flight Squadron is responsible for technical validation and the establishment of training systems, while the Wanghai Squadron and the Strong Army Pioneer Flight Squadron are the Air Force's first elite units to deploy 5th-generation fighters for combat readiness duty. Now that the pilots of the Strong Army Pioneer Flight Squadron have completed their conversion training, it means they are transitioning from one aircraft model to another. In the terminology of the Chinese Air Force, conversion training specifically refers to the training pilots undergo to switch between different fighter jet models. Given that the squadron is already equipped with the J-20, this conversion naturally raises a key question: which fighter jet model are they about to receive? Looking at the current lineup of domestically produced fighter jets, the possibilities point primarily in three directions: the J-20A, an upgraded variant of the J-20, the J-20S, a two-seat variant, or the J-35A, the Air Force variant of another 5th-generation fighter, the J-35. However, a careful analysis of the difficulty of pilot transition and the unit's operational missions clearly rules out the J-35A. Although the J-35A meets 5th-generation standards in terms of aerodynamic layout, avionics architecture, and stealth performance, its flight control system, cockpit interface, weapon loading logic, and even takeoff and landing characteristics differ fundamentally from those of the J-20, requiring a unit already proficient in the J-20 to switch to operating a completely different 5th-generation fighter would not only necessitate a complete overhaul of the pilot training system, but would also entail enormous costs for maintenance, tactical development, and operational procedures. This is inconsistent with the logic of upgrading, which implies a gradual improvement. In contrast, transitioning from the J-20 to the J-20A or J-20S maintains a high degree of platform continuity. Pilots' muscle memory, cockpit operation habits, and understanding of flight envelopes can be retained to the greatest extent possible. While the performance improvements offered by the new model are primarily reflected in avionics, sensor fusion, information processing capabilities, and potential weapon system upgrades, the report's description of very high levels of intelligence and information technology is a precise characterization of these enhancements. When comparing the J-20A and the J-20S, the latter clearly offers greater tactical value, and represents a more significant technological leap. As the world's first two-seat fifth-generation fighter, the J-20S is not merely a single-pilot variant with an additional crew member, rather, its design fundamentally transforms the command and control model of aerial combat. The two-seat configuration allows the front-seat pilot to focus on flight operations and basic tactical maneuvers, while the rear-seat pilot handles sensor management, battlefield situation integration, and command of unmanned wingman drones. This division of labor holds strategic significance in modern air combat, particularly in high-intensity conflict environments. As domestic stealth unmanned combat aircraft technology matures, the J-20S is highly likely to become the first manned platform to form a coordinated combat system with unmanned wingmen. This manned-unmanned formation model is widely regarded as one of the key characteristics of the sixth-generation fighter era. Therefore, the completion of the modification certification by the Pioneer Flight Regiment, a vanguard unit in the military's modernization efforts, likely indicates that the unit is in the process of transitioning to the J-20S. It is even possible that the unit is simultaneously receiving both the J-20A and J-20S models, forming a combat system characterized by a combination of high and low altitude capabilities and complementary functions. If this assessment holds true, it represents not only an upgrade to the unit's equipment inventory, but also a landmark event in the development of the Chinese Air Force's fighter units. Prior to this, the J-20S had been limited to test flight squadrons for technical validation and tactical exploration. Once it enters operational units, especially elite units like the Strong Army Pioneer Flight Squadron, it indicates that the model's technical maturity has reached the standard for combat deployment, and that the relevant tactical regulations and training systems have been fully established. From this perspective, the significance of this modification and certification by the Vanguard Flight Squadron goes beyond a simple aircraft upgrade. It signifies that the Air Force is systematically delivering the most cutting-edge technological platforms to the units with the most combat experience, thereby accelerating the development of new-generation combat capabilities in a combat-realistic environment. Once the J-20S's cooperative combat system with unmanned wingmen matures, it will not only significantly enhance the combat effectiveness of existing fighter formations, but also pave the way for the deployment of sixth-generation fighters. Returning to the question posed at the beginning of this article, does the completion of conversion training by pilots in an elite unit imply that they are preparing to receive sixth-generation fighters? Given the current trajectory of technological evolution and the pace of force modernization, the answer may not be a direct yes, but the logical connection between the two is already very clear. When a fighter wing's history spans propeller-driven fighters from the Korean War era, through fifth-generation stealth fighters, to the upcoming fifth-and-a-half-generation two-seat fighters, its next step is self-evident. In the coming years, the outside world may witness this Vanguard Flight Squadron not only becoming the first to put into practice the coordinated operations between the J-20S and unmanned wingmen, but also, following the official debut of the sixth-generation fighter, likely becoming the first unit to receive it. This leapfrog development trajectory is precisely the most noteworthy trend in modern air power competition.